Hello, and welcome to What to Expect at the ZBA, part of the Philadelphia City Planning Commission Learning Series. In this video, we'll cover what happens in the lead-up to a hearing at the Zoning Board of Adjustment and what you can expect at the actual hearing. Let's begin with the steps leading up to a zoning appeal. Most development is by right. This means that the proposal is allowed by the zoning rules in place at the time that someone files for a zoning permit. We call this by right because the property owner owns the right to build according to zoning. Now, if you're curious how zoning works, make sure you check out our learning series video on zoning in the description below. Some proposals are not by right, which means they are not allowed by the zoning rules. The Department of Licenses and Inspections will respond to these proposals by issuing a notice of refusal. The notice shows which sections of the zoning code are not met by the proposal. The applicant, who is the person or corporation who filed the zoning permit application, then has the option to appeal the refusals to the Zoning Board of Adjustment, or ZBA. This means that the applicant wants to have a special hearing before the ZBA to explain why the zoning rules don't work well for their property. Once an appeal is filed with the ZBA, applicants are given a hearing date. Applicants are responsible for notifying the community, and registered community organizations, or RCOs, are responsible for convening a community meeting. You can learn more about this process by watching our introduction to RCOs, which is linked in the description below. Following the meeting, the RCO records any decisions at the meeting. Some RCOs post the results on their website for all attendees to see. In all cases, the RCO must report the outcome of the meeting to the ZBA. Now that we've covered the steps leading up to a zoning appeal hearing, let's review what happens at a hearing and how you can prepare as a participant. To find upcoming zoning appeals, go to li.phila.gov/zba-appeals-calendar. You can find this link in the description below. The next slide demonstration will show how to filter results, adjust calendar dates, and click on appeal numbers to find details of the case. Find your area by using the Region drop-down menu to select a council district, planning district, or RCO area. You can also search by address or appeal number. You'll see a calendar of upcoming cases. Click on the calendar to select the hearing dates for your search. The start and end dates may also be adjusted to look further ahead or back in time. Clicking on the appeal number will show details about the case. As of October 2022, ZBA hearings are being held virtually via Zoom. For up-to-date information on how to log in, visit www.phila.gov/departments/zoning-board-of-adjustment and click on Participate in a ZBA hearing. You'll find detailed instructions on how to join, including a Zoom link. You don't need to register in advance, but you will need to sign up with your name. A computer is the best way to join, but you can also use a smartphone or a regular phone to call in to the meeting. Each appeal begins with a presentation by the applicant. Applicants are usually, but not always, represented by an attorney. Following the applicant's presentation, the board members may ask questions. Then the board hears from the other meeting attendees. Remember that anyone can step up and offer testimony. Listen carefully for directions. You'll be asked to raise your hand, then unmute yourself when called on. You'll be sworn in and asked to state your name. The board is not required to allow everyone to speak and can limit the time for you to speak. If you're planning to attend a ZBA meeting and you want your testimony to be effective, get organized. If many people want to testify, work out what each person will say. Don't repeat the same points again and again. The ZBA schedules about 40 appeals on a typical hearing day, so you will need to stay focused on your point and keep your comments related to the aspects of the proposal that don't meet the code. The ZBA is not a town hall meeting, it's a fact-finding hearing. Pay attention to previous testimony. If something has already been said, move on to the next point. Another reason to pay attention is to listen for instructions from the chair. The chair might ask you to limit your testimony to a particular topic so the board can focus on an important point. Finally, remember that testimony is not a conversation. You'll have one chance to state your position clearly, and then the board will move on. The board's decision is primarily based on criteria in the zoning code. The zoning code criteria require the applicant to show evidence that the zoning rules don't allow reasonable use of the property, that the variance being sought is the smallest deviation necessary to overcome their hardship. The opinions or positions of the RCO, near neighbors, and elected officials help focus the board's attention on important matters. Ultimately, however, their decision is based on the law. Anyone may submit testimony in writing to the ZBA via the website. At the conclusion of a hearing, the board will decide what to do with the appeal. The board can grant the variance or deny the variance. The board can grant the variance but add provisos or conditions that limit the scope of the variance. The board can also opt to continue the appeal to a later date or dismiss the case entirely without a hearing. Sometimes the board will hold or delay their vote to discuss the case or review written arguments from participants. In the case of a hold, the date of the vote will usually be announced. If you're registered for the meeting, you will receive notice of the decision. If you missed something from a hearing, you can watch recordings of previous board hearings on the ZBA's website by clicking the Public Meetings tab and scrolling down to Meeting Recordings. You may also find it useful to watch recordings of prior meetings so that you can feel better prepared for an upcoming meeting. In this video, you learned what happens before and during a ZBA hearing. We hope you found this information useful. Feel free to contact us with questions and make sure you check out the other videos on our channel.